What if everything you're being told about the economy right now is completely wrong? And what if the people telling you how great things are the same ones making sure things stay bad for you? Stay with me, because what I'm about to break down is going to change how you look at all of this. You know that thing Trump does, where he gets on camera and tells you that you're winning, that everything is going great, the economy is booming, and life is just fantastic. And then his people flood the TV screens one after another, nodding along and saying, "Yes, yes, the economy is in great shape. Things have never been better." Yeah, that thing. Because here's the question nobody seems to be asking out loud. If things are so great, why don't they feel great for most people? Why does it feel like the cost of everything keeps climbing while your paycheck stays exactly where it was? Why does "the economy is doing well" sound like something happening in a completely different country than the one you're actually living in? That gap between what they're telling you and what you're actually experiencing, that's exactly what we're going to dig into. Because the numbers they throw around on TV and the numbers showing up in real people's lives are telling two very different stories. And you deserve to know which one is actually true.
The Dow is over 50,000 right now. The S&P at almost 7,000. And the NASDAQ smashing records. Americans' 401ks and retirement savings are booming. That's what we should be talking about.
Middle class Americans are now selling their blood, literally, just to buy toilet paper. And the number of people doing it has jumped 30% since 2022. If that doesn't stop you in your tracks, wait until you hear the full story. Because this is happening right now, across the entire country, and nobody in Washington seems to care. Stay with me. So remember how Trump and his crew keep jumping on TV telling you the economy is doing great, everything's fantastic, America is winning? Well, let's talk about what's actually happening on the ground. Because when you step away from the cameras and the talking heads and go talk to real, everyday Americans, you get a completely different picture. Here's a headline that dropped today, and I want you to really let this sink in. Middle class Americans are selling their plasma just to make ends meet. Not donating, selling. People are literally selling parts of their body to afford to live in America, to buy toilet paper, to feed their pets, to cover a car payment. That's where things actually stand right now. You've probably seen these plasma centers around, tucked into strip malls right between the grocery store and the hair salon. Maybe you walked past one and didn't think much of it. In Philadelphia, for example, each time you go in and sell your plasma, you walk out with a $65 prepaid debit card. And before you think that's nothing, I actually asked around about what they pay in other countries like South Korea, and the answer was maybe $5, maybe a movie ticket, not $65. So the fact that America is paying that much tells you everything about how desperate the demand and the supply really is. Take a guy named Ian. He's 43 years old. He shows up in the morning before heading to the grocery store, sells his plasma, pockets some cash to cover toilet paper and pet food. His words, "I'm making enough doing DoorDash to keep up with the bills, but for anything extra around the house, this helps out." An hour of his time, his blood, $65. That's the deal. And look, I want to be clear. I'm not against giving blood. Blood drives are a genuinely good thing. But there is a massive difference between donating blood because you want to help someone and selling your blood because it's the only way to cover your basic expenses. One is generosity, the other is desperation dressed up as opportunity. And the scale of this? It's staggering. Around 200,000 people do this every single day in the United States. This is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Back in 2015, there were 530 plasma centers across the country. By 2025, that number has more than doubled to 1,747 locations. And last year alone, Americans sold an estimated $4.7 billion worth of plasma, about 62 million liters of it. That's a 30% increase in plasma collection since 2022. The industry isn't just growing, it's exploding. Now meet Jill. She's in Phoenix. Before all of this, she was making $87,000 a year working in finance. Educated, articulate, skilled. Then she got laid off. Now she makes around $16 an hour, and she's selling her plasma to get by. Her words hit hard. "I was ashamed at first, but now I'm angry. This is not how things are supposed to be. And she's right, it's not. Then there's Margot and her husband, bringing in around $120,000 a year together out in rural Idaho. That sounds like enough, right? And yet, they started selling plasma about a year ago just to cover their car payment and unexpected expenses like new tires and medical bills especially, because in America, one bad health event can unravel an entire household budget. And that's not an accident. That's a system that was built that way. Larry is 64 years old and works as a school bus monitor for children with disabilities in Oklahoma. His take-home pay is about $1,800 a month. Then his rent jumped to $800, so he started selling plasma just to stay afloat. A man who spends his days making sure disabled kids get to school safely is selling his blood to pay rent. Let that one sit with you. And then there's Erin in Fresno, selling plasma to pay off debt that her cleaning jobs and her husband's salary at a heating and cooling company just can't keep up with. Different jobs, different states, different life situations, but all arriving at the same desperate solution. Here's something that actually surprised me when I read it. Researchers found that when a new plasma center opens in a neighborhood, foot traffic at local grocery stores goes up, interest in payday loans drops, and crime goes down. Think about what that's actually telling you. It's not saying plasma centers are the answer. It's saying that when people have just a little bit of breathing room, when they're not completely suffocating under the weight of basic expenses, things get better. Crime drops, communities stabilize, people can actually live. And this brings me back to something I keep coming back to on this channel. Affordable healthcare and public transportation, because look at what's driving people into these plasma centers. Medical bills, car expenses, the cost of just existing. If you make healthcare genuinely affordable, a massive chunk of that pressure disappears overnight. If you build real public transportation infrastructure so families don't need to constantly repair and replace vehicles, that's another layer of financial stress gone. These aren't radical ideas. These are things that actually work. Other countries do them, and their citizens aren't selling their blood to buy groceries. Then there's Michelle in Minneapolis. She wants her kid in a better preschool. The school costs $700 a month, so she sells her plasma, making about $400 a month at the center, and is still $300 short every single month. She was a paralegal making $75,000 a year. Her husband brings in $90,000 as a business manager. Together, a family of three in a relatively affordable part of Minneapolis, and their credit card balance keeps climbing. She sells her blood so her kid can go to preschool, and she sits there sometimes thinking, I bet no other parent here is doing this to pay tuition. Now here's where the whole thing starts to feel genuinely sinister. The plasma company she uses, BioLife, owned by the Japanese pharmaceutical giant Takeda, has figured out exactly how to keep people coming back. Your first visit of the week pays $45. Come back a second time that same week and you get $65. In November, they ran what they called a sweeter weather promotion. Sell your plasma 8 times in a month and get entered into a raffle for $1,000. In December, they launched a loyalty rewards program. Donate 7 times a month for 3 consecutive months and earn points redeemable for gift cards, loyalty programs, promotional deals, raffle prizes, for your blood. I mean, it literally sounds like a drug dealer's playbook. Get them in the door, give them just enough to keep coming back, build the habit. Except instead of selling something to people, they're buying something from them. And what they're buying is people's bodies. And here's the part that makes this uniquely American. Only a tiny handful of countries in the entire world allow paid plasma donation at this frequency, twice a week. Most countries either don't allow payment at all or strictly limit how often it can happen because they actually think about the long-term health of their citizens. America says, come in twice a week. Here's your debit card, see you next Monday. And the long-term health effects, there's barely any data on it. Nobody really knows what happens to your body if you sell plasma twice a week for a year or 2 years straight. Some people report dizziness, bruising, exhaustion. You lose about 10% of your blood volume each time. A healthy person can regenerate that relatively quickly, but we're not necessarily talking about a population of perfectly healthy people here. We're talking about people under financial stress, possibly not eating as well as they should, working multiple jobs, losing sleep. What does repeated plasma donation do to someone already running on empty? We genuinely don't know. And while all of this is happening to American families, the plasma they sell is being packaged up and shipped around the world. America supplies 70% of the world's plasma. In 2024, the US exported $6.2 billion worth of plasma overseas. A professor at the University of Colorado put it plainly. The USA has created a very attractive market for plasma centers. Another researcher went further, pointing out that not only does America allow paid donation twice a week, but it also has, and I'm paraphrasing here, widespread poverty and a social safety net that doesn't do nearly enough. That's America right now. A country extracting billions of dollars worth of plasma from its struggling citizens and selling it around the world while those same citizens can't afford their medical bills or their kids' preschool. And Trump is on TV telling you you're winning. I'm genuinely angry reading this. I didn't fully understand how deep this rabbit hole went until I dug into this story, and I think it needs to be talked about loudly and clearly. Because the people doing this aren't lazy. They're not asking for handouts. They're educated, they're working, they're trying, and the system is still not enough. I want to hear from you, especially if you're outside the United States. Do you see anything like this where you live? Drop it in the comments, and I'll catch you all in the next video.